My name is Carrie R. Nelson, and I am 30 years old. The moment I walked into my apartment, something felt off, even though nothing looked wrong. My couch was exactly where I left it. The dishes were stacked neatly by the sink. My shoes were lined up against the wall. And Luna, my cat, came running toward me, meowing like she'd been holding in a story she couldn't wait to tell. I knelt down and scratched behind her ears, relieved that at least she seemed fine. Jessica was supposed to be taking care of her while I was away at work. That was the only reason she had my spare key. Feed Luna, clean the litter box, and leave. Nothing else. I told myself I was imagining things. I unpacked slowly, letting the quiet of the apartment settle around me. I opened my closet to put my bag away, reached under my folded clothes, and froze. The stack of cash I kept there looked smaller, not drastically, just enough that my stomach tightened before my brain could catch up. I counted it once, then again, faster this time. My chest started to ache as I finished. $5,000 was gone. I sat down on the edge of my bed, the money clenched in my hands, staring at it like it might explain itself if I waited long enough. I hadn't spent it. I hadn't miscounted. I knew exactly how much was there. I'd built that stash paycheck by paycheck, adding to it deliberately, carefully. Someone had taken it. There was only one person who had access to my apartment while I was gone. I called Jessica, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I didn't bother texting. I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' house, my mind looping through excuses that didn't hold up. The drive blurred together, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles hurt. $5,000 wasn't pocket change. This wasn't borrowing $20 and forgetting to mention it. This was theft. I walked into my parents' house without knocking. They were all sitting around the kitchen table eating dinner, like nothing in the world was wrong. Jessica was scrolling through her phone with one hand, eating with the other. My parents looked up at me, their expressions neutral, almost annoyed, like I was the disruption. I didn't sit down. I didn't take off my jacket. "You took my money," I said. Jessica didn't even look up at first. She finished chewing, wiped her mouth with a napkin, then met my eyes like this was a casual conversation. "Yeah," she said. "I did." For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. "I bought a ticket to Hawaii." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain didn't know how else to respond to something so absurd. $5,000, Jessica? Are you serious? My mother sighed. "Carrie, do we really have to do this now?" I turned to her. "Did you hear what she just said? She stole $5,000 from me." My dad finally put his fork down. "Well, you shouldn't have left that much cash lying around." Something in my face twitched. It was in my closet, under my clothes. She had no reason to be in there. Jessica grinned, leaning back in her chair. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Are you going to sue me?" She thought this was funny. She thought she was untouchable. I smiled, not because I agreed, but because in that moment, I already knew how this was going to end. I turned around and walked out without another word. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jessica's smug expression and heard my dad's voice telling me it was my fault for being careless with my own money. By morning, I was done being angry. I wanted action. I called my lawyer, Greg, as soon as I woke up and explained everything. He didn't hesitate. "I'll take care of it," he said. An hour later, Jessica called me. I stared at my phone for a second before answering. She started screaming the moment I picked up. "Are you serious, Carrie? A lawyer? You're actually doing this?" "Yes," I said calmly. "I am." She scoffed. "Over $5,000? Over the $5,000 you stole." She went quiet for a beat, then muttered, "You're such a loser. You don't even need the money." That made me laugh, but there was no humor in it. "That's not the point, Jessica. You think you can take whatever you want and get away with it." "I already spent it," she snapped. "Not my problem." "I'm giving you a chance to fix this before it goes further," I said. She hung up. 20 minutes later, my mother called. Her voice was already layered with disappointment. "This is ridiculous. Jessica is your sister. Families don't sue each other over money." "Families don't steal from each other either," I said. She made a mistake. She knew exactly what she was doing. "She can't pay you back." "Not my problem." "She already booked her trip." "Still not my problem." She sighed. "Your father and I think you need to let this go. It's just money." "If it's just money," I said, "why don't you pay me back for her?" Silence. After another sigh, she muttered, "I don't know what's happened to you. You used to be such a nice girl." "I don't know what happened to you," I said. "You used to be a parent." I hung up. A notification popped up immediately after. A Venmo request from Jessica for $5,000. with a note attached. Emotional damages for ruining my life. I stared at it, then took a screenshot and sent it to Greg. If Jessica thought this was over, she had another thing coming. By the time the afternoon rolled around, the initial shock had burned itself out and left something colder behind. Anger is loud. Resolve is quiet. I cleaned my kitchen, fed Luna, made coffee I barely tasted, and kept my phone face down on the counter, like it might bite me if I looked at it too long. I didn't need to check it to know what was waiting. Jessica had never been good at sitting with consequences, and my parents had never been good at letting her feel them. Greg called first. He told me he'd sent an official demand letter to Jessica, formal language, clear timeline. 48 hours to return the money before escalation. No theatrics. Just reality in writing. Hearing it out loud steadied me more than I expected. Paper has a way of cutting through family noise. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Jessica. I answered before I could talk myself out of it. You're unbelievable, she snapped. You're really going to do this to me? I'm not doing anything to you, I said. You did this when you took my money. She scoffed, breath sharp in my ear. It's $5,000, Carrie. People borrow more than that all the time. Borrowing involves asking, I said, and paying it back. I already told you I spent it, she shot back. So what do you want me to do? Pull it out of thin air? I want you to take responsibility, I said. For once. There was a pause, then her voice dropped, mean and quiet. You're really going to take your own sister to court? I'm giving you a chance not to let it get there, I said. She laughed, a short, bitter sound. God, you're pathetic. The line went dead. I didn't sit with it long because my mother called again almost immediately, like they were coordinating. Her tone had shifted from disappointment to something more manipulative, softer, almost pleading. This has gone far enough, she said. You're embarrassing us. I'm not the one who stole, I replied. You're tearing the family apart over money. No, I said. Jessica did that when she decided my savings were hers. She didn't mean it like that. Then how did she mean it? Silence, then the familiar pivot. She's struggling. That word, struggling. It had been used my entire life as a blanket excuse, laid gently over every mess Jessica made. Struggling meant don't question, don't push, don't ask for accountability. So was I when I was saving that money, I said. I still didn't steal from anyone. My mother sighed like I was exhausting her. Your father and I can't afford to pay you back for her. I didn't ask you to, I said. Well, then you need to accept that this is just how it is, she replied. Sometimes you have to be the bigger person. I felt something snap, clean and final. Being the bigger person has always meant being the quieter one, I said. I'm done with that. She hung up on me. I set the phone down and stared at the wall, the silence in my apartment suddenly heavy. The pattern was so clear it almost hurt. Jessica took. My parents minimized. And somehow I was expected to absorb the damage because I was the responsible one, the stable one, the one who didn't make waves. That evening there was a knock at my door. I didn't have to look through the peephole to know who it was. I opened it and found my father standing there, shoulders slumped, eyes tired, holding his keys like he needed something to do with his hands. He didn't greet me. He stepped inside like this was still his space to enter. You're off the case, he said, as if that meant anything. I leaned against the counter. No, I'm not. He rubbed his face, frustration leaking through the cracks. You're taking this too far. Jessica messed up, yes, but she's your sister. You don't throw family under the bus like this. I crossed my arms. Funny. I thought the same thing when she stole from me. He winced but didn't answer. You really want to take your own sister to court, he said again, like repeating it would change my mind. Would you say the same thing if I stole from her? I asked. He shifted his weight and looked away. That's what I thought, I said. He tried a different angle then, the one that always worked before. Her life hasn't been easy. I almost laughed. There it is. She needed a break, he continued. She wanted to reset. So she stole from me, I said flatly. That was the solution. It's just money, he insisted. If it's just money, I said, why don't you pay me back? He hesitated, and in that hesitation, I felt something click into place. You knew, I said slowly. You knew she took it. He didn't deny it. My stomach dropped, not from surprise, but from confirmation. You just hoped I wouldn't notice. It wasn't like that, he said weakly. Then what was it like? I asked. He exhaled. It's done. She already booked her trip. She's leaving in a week. Just let it go. I stared at him, the realization settling in like a weight. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for permission to get away with it. I smiled, and I could see the concern flicker in his eyes. I hope she enjoys her trip, I said. What does that mean? He asked. It means, I replied, that if she thinks she's getting on a plane without consequences, she's in for a surprise. He told me not to do anything drastic. I smiled again and said nothing. As soon as he left, I called Greg back. Change of plans, I said. I want to hit this where it actually matters. There was a pause on the line. What are you thinking? Can you freeze her assets? I asked. Her bank account, her cards. Another pause, then a low chuckle. Now that, he said, is interesting. Do it, I said. When I hung up, I felt calm for the first time since I'd found the missing money. Jessica had always believed consequences were for other people. My parents had spent years reinforcing that belief. By the next morning, they were all going to learn how wrong they were. I woke up the next morning to my phone vibrating like it was trying to crawl off the nightstand. Missed calls stacked on the screen, one after another, all from the same 3 names. Jessica, my mother, my father. I didn't answer any of them right away. I rolled onto my side, stared at the wall, and let myself enjoy the quiet for just a few seconds longer. Then I made coffee. By the time Greg called, I was sitting at my kitchen table, mug warm in my hands, Luna curled up beside me like nothing in the world was wrong. Greg didn't waste time. I take it you've noticed, he said. Oh, I've noticed, I replied, a smile creeping onto my face despite myself. What exactly did you do? He explained it calmly, like he was describing a routine procedure. He'd filed for a temporary restraining order tied to the theft and flagged Jessica's use of the stolen money as fraud. Because she'd used it for a large purchase, her plane ticket, it triggered an automatic review. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her credit cards flagged. Any pending transactions halted. She's not going anywhere, Greg added. That's unfortunate, I said dryly. And one more thing, he continued. Your parents are now formally named in the action. I nearly choked on my coffee. What do you mean, named? They admitted they knew about the theft and did nothing to stop it, Greg said. Legally, that makes them accessories. I leaned back in my chair, the pieces finally snapping together. For the first time, the panic I'd been feeling cracked and gave way to something steadier. So what happens now? They have 48 hours, he said. Either the money is returned in full or this proceeds. And trust me, with their finances, they don't want this to go any further. I thanked him and hung up. Almost immediately, my phone rang again. Jessica. I answered this time. She exploded the second she heard my voice. What the hell did you do, Carrie? My flight was canceled. My bank account is frozen. I can't even buy a cup of coffee. Fix this. Now. I took another sip of coffee. Not my problem. You can't do this to me, she screamed. I didn't do anything wrong. You stole from me, I said calmly. This is just the consequence. I already spent it, she shot back. I don't have it. Then you should start figuring things out, I replied. Her voice cracked. You're ruining my life. I laughed softly. No, Jessica, you did that all by yourself. I hung up before she could say anything else. Less than an hour later, there was pounding on my door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, my mother already pushing past me like she owned the place. My father followed, looking less angry and more worn down than I'd ever seen him. You went too far, my mother said, spinning around to face me. You froze her accounts. Yes, I said, I did. She can't access her money, she snapped. She should have thought about that before stealing mine, I replied. We'll find a way to pay you back, she said quickly. Just drop the lawsuit. I crossed my arms. Last night, you said you couldn't afford it. She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. That's what I thought, I said. My father finally spoke. You're really willing to take this to court? Absolutely. My mother's face reddened. We don't have that kind of money. I shrugged. Then I guess I'll see you in court. They went quiet, not storming out, not yelling, just standing there, realizing for the first time that I wasn't backing down. I handed my phone to them, the legal notice displayed clearly on the screen. You have 48 hours, I said. After that, it's out of my hands. They didn't leave right away. Instead, my father sat down heavily in one of the chairs, rubbing his temple like he had a migraine. Jessica doesn't have the money, he said. I figured, I replied. She spent it. He shook his head. No, she didn't. I froze. What do you mean she didn't? My mother shot him a sharp look, but he ignored it. He took a deep breath. She didn't buy a plane ticket. My stomach tightened. Then where is my money? Silence. I turned to my mother. Where is it? She crossed her arms defensively. It doesn't matter. I laughed, incredulous. It doesn't matter? Jessica needed it more than you, she said. For what? I demanded. She hesitated again, and my father answered for her. She was in debt. Something about the way he said debt made my skin prickle. What kind of debt? Neither of them answered. That was when I knew this wasn't about a vacation at all. I grabbed my phone and called Jessica. She picked up immediately, her voice shaky. Can you please just fix this? You didn't buy a plane ticket, I said flatly. Silence. Who do you owe money to? I asked. It's taken care of, she said quickly. Who? I repeated. She snapped. Some guys, okay? I owed some guys money. My chest tightened. What kind of guys? She hesitated. The kind you don't want to owe. The room felt smaller suddenly. $5,000 wasn't just missing. It had gone somewhere dangerous. And my parents had known. You knew, I said quietly, looking at them. You knew she was involved with people like this, and you still tried to make me the villain. My mother looked away. She's our daughter. And I'm not, I shot back. Jessica's voice came through the phone, smaller now. I didn't have a choice, Carrie. You always have a choice, I said. You just picked the one where I paid for it. I can't pay you back, she whispered. Then figure it out, I replied. Sell something. Get another job. I don't care. She scoffed weakly. I don't even have my car anymore. I closed my eyes, a slow breath leaving my chest. Then you'd better start working. My mother tried to interrupt, but I cut her off. No, enough. You both knew. You covered for her, and now you want me to clean it up. They fell silent. This is how it's going to go, I said. You will pay me back every cent. Until then, the lawsuit stays. Jessica didn't argue this time. She just hung up. As my parents finally left, I sat down and rubbed my face, the adrenaline slowly draining out of me. The situation was worse than I'd imagined, but the line had been drawn. Jessica had played with fire. And this time, I wasn't the one getting burned. It took 3 weeks for every dollar to come back to me, and not a single one of those days was quiet. The payments didn't arrive in one clean transfer. They came in fragments, like confessions Jessica couldn't quite choke down all at once. 1,000 here, 800 there, 400 with a memo that said, "Don't push it." Every deposit felt less like repayment and more like proof of how far things had fallen. Jessie had to borrow money from my parents. She sold furniture, electronics, clothes she'd once bragged about buying. She picked up a second job and complained loudly to anyone who would listen that I was ruining her life, that I was heartless, that I was punishing her for being human. I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I watched the numbers climb back to where they belonged and kept my distance. My parents tried to soften the situation once they realized I wasn't backing down. My mother started calling just to check in, her tone suddenly careful, almost sweet. My father suggested lunch, like nothing had happened, like we could eat sandwiches and pretend my sister hadn't stolen from me, and dragged everyone into a mess that could have gone very wrong. Even Jessica sent me a message one afternoon that simply said, "We're still family, right?" I didn't reply. The final payment came through on a Tuesday morning. $5,000, complete at last. I stared at my banking app for a long moment, then sent Greg a single message. Drop the lawsuit, it's done. He confirmed a few minutes later. Just like that, the legal part was over. But the damage wasn't. Almost immediately, the tone shifted. The crisis was gone, so now the expectations returned. Sunday dinners, group chats, invitations that assumed compliance. It was like they believed returning the money erased everything else. The lies, the theft, the cover-up. The moment my own parents looked me in the eye and told me it was my fault for trusting my sister. One Sunday, my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Mom's making a big dinner tonight. You should come." I stared at it for a long time before replying. I'm busy. I wasn't. I just wasn't willing to step back into a room where I was expected to pretend nothing had changed. That was when it finally hit me. I had always been the responsible one, the fixer, the quiet backup plan, the one who didn't need help and therefore didn't deserve protection. When Jessica stole from me, it wasn't a betrayal to them. It was an inconvenience, something I was supposed to absorb and smooth over because that's what I'd always done. But I wasn't doing it anymore. Weeks passed. I didn't call. I didn't visit. My parents tried a few more times, then less often. Jessica stopped pretending to apologize and went back to acting like I'd wronged her. Eventually, the noise faded into something distant and dull. I still have my sister's number in my phone. I haven't blocked it. I don't need to. Silence says enough. I got my money back. That was never the real victory. The real victory was realizing I didn't have to stay in a family where accountability only applied to one person. I didn't have to keep paying the price for being the stable one. I didn't have to be the safety net anymore. My name is Carrie R. Nelson, and I didn't lose my family over $5,000. I lost them the moment they decided I was expendable.